The Biden campaign is reportedly worried that the Justice Department's final report about the mishandled classified documents found at his home in Delaware might contain some embarrassing details, like how he lives in Delaware.
That's what passes for comedy today. It's Soviet propaganda day and night. I heard more last night. Who's that guy? Seth Meyers? He was on last night. It was, I was going to sleep, and it was on the Democrat Party propaganda. Boy, what do they call that stream in California? That it is, it's amazing. The propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party is unlike anything the world has ever seen. It's like they're channeling that gurgle guy. Absolutely extraordinary. Well, happy Thursday to you, and welcome. Yesterday we did the mailbag. We did the mailbag and questions from our wonderful listeners, and one of the questions was something like, how do you not lose your mind with all the news and things that you consume and a daily diet of this lunacy? And it's kind of a great question, actually, because everybody is across America suffering from the same thing. You know, it's not just information overload. It's insane information overload. And you almost can't believe it. And it's been this question has been the topic of conversation for me several times since yesterday. And it is a fascinating question. How do you stay in touch with the news of the day and not have your head explode? Like that movie Scanners. Remember Scanners, when the heads explode? That was a long time ago, but it was kind of fun. And it's a good question because I think that's happening all over the country. Heads are exploding. They don't, you don't have a lot of video of it for some reason, but heads are exploding everywhere. And one crazy thing after another. And one of the crazy things today is MSDNC, as you might imagine, and a Democrat senator who accidentally revealed the truth. Senator Chris Murphy, who's a radical extremist fanatic, is just kind of the normal political language now. This is how we address each other in Washington, D.C. and the United States of America. He's a fanatical extremist. He's a fascist. This is because you just want to use all the right words. Senator Chris Murphy said the quiet part out loud. And I don't know if you've heard this yet, but it's quite remarkable. He says that, the Democrat Party's constituency is the illegal alien. A pretty extraordinary moment in American political history and in media history, too, because he's got that, what's the male Rachel Maddow? Stephen Hayes, yeah? Chris Hayes, not Stephen Hayes, Chris Hayes. And he had Senator Chris Murphy on, and he was fluffing him like a pro from the Valley, and he accidentally let something slip out. I want to play it for you because it's a mad world. Chris Murphy, Senator, Democrat, on MSDNC, and as the header says over here, he said the quiet part out loud. These are not the things he's supposed to say. And the fake journalist who was performing acts of journalistic gratification upon him unabashedly just let it slip right by like this was nothing at all.
You are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe, and it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
That's right, for the people that we care about the most, the undocumented Americans that we have in this country. He's going to later, no doubt, say that he misspoke, and of course, it was just a tragic misstatement of where we really stand. The people we care about most, the undocumented Americans. I like that because, it's not, the United States is not America. There's Latin America, there's South America, there's, Mexican Americans who don't like to get up early in the morning and all that stuff. But that's a pretty amazing thing. The people we care about most, the undocumented Americans who are in this country. The Democrat Party's strategy for 30 years has failed to deliver for the people we care about the most, the undocumented Americans.
The people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
Yeah, that's right. That's your Democrat Party, the people they care about most. And if, your 62-year-old mother is being dragged down the sidewalk in New York City and slammed into a street post or whatever that is. What was that, a bike lock? It was a steel pipe in the concrete, and it looks like it might be a bicycle lock that they dragged that lady into while they were robbing her. And all the illegal alien gangs from Venezuela that the Democrats have imported into the United States to commit crimes, more crimes. Pretty amazing stuff. Did you see there's more information from the NYPD, who the Democrats defund because they love criminals and they hate the police and civil society. They don't really want a civilized culture. They want something else altogether because they're not liberals, they're the left. But it turns out that these gangs of criminals that the Democrats have stood up in New York City and across the country, they're beating women's heads in on the streets of New York, and they're stealing everything. You see that they're taking them, they're robbing them. This happened the other day in D.C., too, where the criminals beat up the 25-year-old woman who was walking to her house from her car in Washington, D.C., and they beat her up and they took everything, and they held a knife to her and they pepper sprayed her. And they took her phone and they made her open the phone. They made her give the code. Otherwise, they would commit great harm upon her. And now it turns out all these criminal gangs are hacking into people's phones and emptying their bank accounts and sending the phones to South America for resale. And they got these hackers, professional teams of hackers, that are cracking the codes and hacking into their phones and emptying their bank accounts because the word they're using in New York is sophisticated. These sophisticated crime networks that the Democrats have stood up in the United States of America because they love murder and mayhem and looting and carjacking and shooting people, and they don't like the police, which makes sense if you like all those other things, right? So we've got that. We got updates, and there's Senator Chris Murphy revealing later he will revise and extend his remarks, and the media will say, oh, he just misspoke. Come on. And they'll call it a conspiracy theory, and they'll fact-check people that call him on it because that's how filthy corrupt they are. It's extraordinary. So we've got that going. Also, you see the Democrats in Atlanta, Georgia. They're stealing houses now. How do you steal houses? Well, it's a little different than stealing cars. We know the Democrats steal cars like some people, have a stick of gum, but give me a stick of Beemans. But the Democrats in Georgia, in Atlanta, they've stolen 1,200 houses. How do you steal houses? Well, they just move in when there's nobody there. Maybe a house is up for sale. Maybe the people are away on vacation. And the Democrats move into the houses, 1,200 houses. And when you call the police on them, the police come and say, well, there's nothing we can do. They're living in your house. What do you mean there's nothing that you can do? They've stolen my house and everything in it. And they say, well, because they're there, it's absolutely insane. Where's the SWAT team? We need a helicopter gunship. We need tear gas. We're going to have to fill this house with gas and force them out and then bring the snipers in because this is absolutely insane. They've got, and Buckhead, which is trying to break away from Atlanta because it's run by criminals, the city of Atlanta is, and absolutely insane. They've stolen 1,200 houses from human beings who worked hard your whole life, to get your house, and then Democrats steal it from you. And it's racist also. It's also a racist thing. So we got that going. And the Supreme Court today is going to be hearing the case of kicking Donald Trump off of the presidential ballot like in Senegal and Venezuela and Putin's Russia, which the Democrat Party, so-called, that they're not democratic. They're the left-wing radical crime party. And Joe Biden is their sock puppet president. See, what, did he get another milkshake or something yesterday? This guy's brain is so far gone. And also Joe Biden, just a couple of days ago, we played the audio for you where he confused French President Macron with the French president from the 1980s, Mitterrand. And I've been saying for years, he doesn't know what decade it is. And he proves it again and again. And yesterday, he thought he was talking to Helmut Kohl, who was the German chancellor, again, in the 1980s, when Ronald Reagan was president of the United States. It is time for him to fake that illness that he had talked about and step down as president of the United States, because he is a broken man. This man he has no business living in the White House or being called the president of the United States. He must go. Biden must go. And then Kamala will be the president of the United States, which is demented, I know, but she's not as dumb as he is. Her brain is not as faulty as his brain. His brain must go. It's absolutely extraordinary. And I want to share that with you because just the other day, again, he thought he was meeting with the French president from the 1980s. Now he thinks he was meeting with the German chancellor. That was Hitler's title, by the way. You'd think they'd change that after Hitler. Change it to prime minister or something, but chancellor. You know, that's pretty crazy stuff. He was the head of the Socialist Workers' Party and isn't Bernie Sanders a member of the Socialist Workers' Party? He's the Democratic Socialists of America. We're in a very, very different place in the United States of America, and the Democrats are trying to render the country unrecognizable as its former self. But just amazing. Even NBC fake news had to type something up on it because it reached that critical point. I used to call it the Chris Plant rule. When it becomes so embarrassing and humiliating for them to carry the water of the Democrats, then they actually have to report the news as it is. And their headline is, in his second mix-up in a week, Biden talks about meeting with dead European leaders. And that's NBC fake news. Now, they are like, rent-a-hookers for the Democrat Party at NBC fake news. Just amazing stuff. And Biden says he discussed January 6th Capitol riot with former German Chancellor Helmut Kohl, who died in 2017. But, I see dead people. Joe Biden is a broken man, and he needs to go. And if that doesn't do it, and it wouldn't, and the news media is still fine with it because they are that corrupt. They are the most corrupt institution in America. But this might do it because black and Hispanic voters are deserting the Democratic Party in large numbers. And they're nothing if not racists. And racist ballot harvesters, the Democrat Party. Also, they've got an issue with the Muslims, the Arabs and the Muslims in Michigan. And it's a key swing state for them. So they've got to win the jihad vote. Who is it? The Wall Street Journal called it part of Michigan, the jihad district. And the rest of the news media attacked them. They're pro-Hamas, and Hamas is a genocidal radical Islamic terrorist group. And apparently huge numbers of American Muslims are completely in bed with the radical Islamic terrorist, genocidal anti-Semites of Hamas. And American Muslims up the yin-yang are completely in with Hamas and hate the Jews. Oh, speaking of which, you see a Muslim man in New York attacked a Jewish man's house in New York because he had an Israeli flag out front. And this violent jihadi came and tore down the Israeli flag in front of this man's house. And the man showed up, and the jihadi beat the hell out of him, attacked him, and beat the hell out of the Jewish man in New York because the Muslim man is a genocidal anti-Semite and a jihadi, and the Democrat Party is waving millions of them, if they could, into the country. They're waving more jihadis into the country because the Democrat Party is not on our side. Michigan Democrats organizers, that is to say Muslim and Arab organizers, are trying to muster an anti-Joe Biden vote for the primary on February 27th. And telling people to vote uncommitted. Joe Biden should be committed. You should vote to commit Joe Biden. How about that? We're also waiting to hear on this, one of the special counsels, her looking into Joe Biden's classified documents abuses. And I expect that that will be a sham. I think most of us probably expect that her special counsel investigation into Joe Biden's misuse of classified documents will be a complete whitewash, which is a racial reference in this case. Just amazing. Because Merrick Garland, who's as crooked as the day is long, our Attorney General, announces special counsel report on Biden classified documents is complete. Now they just have to arrange for the cover-up. Amazing stuff. And the Biden administration has a surveillance program on the federal government surveilling our bank transactions, looking for terms like MAGA and Trump, because Deutschland über alles is alive and well here in the United States. The Supreme Court, crazy people outside the Supreme Court. The illegal aliens overwhelming Chicago. Coming up today, the Democrat Party is demolishing the United States of America as an organized country and as a place where we obey the law, because they really don't believe in the law. We are at 888-630-9625, and I've got tragic news about Taylor Swift. She actually had to sell one of her jets. I've never felt so sad for a woman, ever.
Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com.
Joe Biden, his brain is in the 1980s when he was just of retirement age. And he really needs to go. He's going to need to fake that. I want to play that audio for you today where he said he would fake an illness to get out of the presidency when we all realized that he wasn't up to the job. It's about time for that to happen, maybe past time. Let us take a phone call now. We are at 888-630-9625. Let's go to Rob, calling from Montgomery County, Maryland. Oh, Rob, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. It's what, yabba dabba do. Here's chaos for you, right?
Yeah.
It's morning. It's weekend at Brandon's.
It really is. I got a weekend at Bernie's text this morning from a friend, as a matter of fact. Yeah, he's brain dead.
I've got something for you.
Yeah.
I think he's been brain dead ever since the 80s, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have something I haven't heard anyone mention. I guess there's some suspicion out there that there may be a group in higher up places that are taking kickbacks from Mexico, from the cartels, over all this, trafficking, people trafficking, and the drugs, and so on and so forth. This fundamental destruction of our wonderful country. Isn't it nice?
It is the fundamental destruction of our wonderful country, isn't it?
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Yep, and that's where we are, Rob. You're on to them. And we'll keep our ear to the ground on the cartels paying them off. It would be less than shocking. Now, Joe Biden, his brain, she's a broke, 'cause she's a no good, that brain of his. She's a no work. And it's so bad now that even the corrupt anti-journalists at NBC Fake News had to jump on in his second mix-up this week. Biden talks about meeting with dead European leaders. He referred to Francois Mitterrand, who died in 1996 instead of French President Emmanuel Macron, and the late Helmut Kohl instead of former German Chancellor Angela Merkel. They have these German names in Germany, you know. You may recall the other day we played the audio for you where he thought that he was talking about the current French president that he met with, he said it was at the G7, which was NATO, and NATO is not the G7, and the G7 is not NATO, and he screwed that up. And then he suggested that he was the German president when he was talking about the German chancellor when he was talking about the French president. Then he said it was Francois Mitterrand when he was trying to say the name of Emmanuel Macron.
You know, right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders.
Wrong.
It was in the south of England.
That might
And
be
I
right.
sat down and I said, "America's back." And Mitterrand from from France, looked at me and said, "You know, why? How long are you back for?" And I looked at him, and the Chancellor of Germany said, "What would you say, Mr. President, if you picked up the paper tomorrow in the London Times, and the London Times said, 1,000 people break through the House of Commons, break down the doors, 2 bobbies are killed in order to stop the election of the Prime Minister."
Another lie. And then the 2 bobbies are killed. He's still going around peddling this, police officers killed on January 6th when, one police officer shot and killed an unarmed woman who served 12 years in the United States Air Force. And the Democrats applauded that and gave him an award because they're racists, for one thing, the Democrat Party. Now, he is unwell. He's very unwell. You may remember also he was trying to say that we're talking to Hamas about the release of the hostages, including American hostages, which he never made reference to. And instead, he stumbled around and bumped into furniture and couldn't remember Hamas. And then a reporter jumped in like it was a game show with Grandpa and say, Hamas, you're trying to think of Hamas.
There is some movement, and I don't want to, maybe choose my words. There's some movement.
Wants to choose his words.
There's been a response.
No, there hasn't.
From
who?
The
Hamas.
There's been a response.
Hamas?
From the opposition.
The opposition?
But, yes, I'm sorry, from Hamas.
A reporter jumped in to clue him in. You're trying to conjure up the word Hamas, but you're so broken that you can't. Now, yesterday he was at fundraisers with rich, radical, left-wing, Davos, private jet radicals and extremists who are funneling millions of dollars at him because they know that he's a sock puppet for the death of the West. Now, why they're supporting that, I can't explain, but they are. It's possible they're not very smart. Just because they became very wealthy in America, a lot of dumb people become very wealthy. And I do have a Taylor Swift update. But Joe Biden on Wednesday, NBC Fake News writes, twice referred to late German Chancellor Helmut Kohl, instead of former Chancellor Angela Merkel, while detailing a 2021 conversation at campaign events. It was the second time this week that Biden had recalled speaking with a European leader who had died years earlier. He is a broken man. Biden's gaffes Wednesday came in a series of fundraisers in New York. What were they calling the fundraisers yesterday? They had a euphemism for fundraisers, the news media did, that they used. They were, gatherings of left-wing lunatics. But in any case, the gaffes came Wednesday at a series of fundraisers. Campaign receptions. Yeah, they were campaign receptions. No, they're fundraisers with billionaires. But that's okay because he's in the pocket of the billionaires. And they want lots of cheap labor to clean their mansions on Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, where they're getting subsidies. You see this? They're getting subsidies in New Hampshire. In Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard because they're low-income areas, and the low-income areas get subsidies for electric car chargers. So they get a $7,500 subsidy for buying an $80,000 Tesla. And then we, the taxpayers across America, subsidize electric car chargers on Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, where the houses naturally cost millions of dollars. Also in Rehoboth, where Joe Biden has his $4.5 million house. But back to NBC News. So his gaffes Wednesday came in a series of fundraisers in New York where he described conversations he said he had with European leaders at a meeting of the Group of 7 industrialized nations. They leave out that he called it NATO. In the UK in 2021, months after the January 6th riot. Also, months after hundreds of riots that the Democratic Party had, from Seattle and Portland to Ferguson, Missouri, to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and Chicago and Minneapolis and New York and Washington, where dozens were killed, thousands, literally dozens of people were murdered, thousands of police officers were injured, billions in property damage, and those are completely erased from the collective memory of our fraudulent, filthy, corrupt news media. Biden said at both events that Helmut Kohl, who died in 2017, had asked him in 2021 how he would respond if he read about people storming the British Parliament and killing officers, which didn't happen on January 6th. Officer Brian Sicknick did die the next day of a stroke, and he was, according to all reports, a really great guy, and he was a big Trump supporter too. But leave that out. And Joe Biden, his brain, remember when he told us years ago now, so he's going around talking about, oh yeah, at a meeting with Helmut Kohl in 2021. No, you didn't. You had a meeting with Francois Mitterrand in 2021. No, you didn't. None of this happened. And a G7 meeting is not a NATO meeting. And the French president is not from Germany. And he said all these things just this week. It's amazing. And remember, it was when he was running for president, it was in 2019 or 2020, when he offered up this gem.
When we disagree, it'll be just like, so far, it's been just like when Barack and I did. If I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign.
He's talking about having a disagreement with Kamala Harris, by the way, if memory serves, and I believe it does. He said, well, if it's just like when I was vice president with Barack, if we had a fundamental disagreement, couldn't be resolved, what will you do? Fake an illness? And now he's talking about Kamala, but now he's the president. I'm not sure he realized that when he said it. And he's going to fake an illness?
I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign.
Yeah. That's and he'll lie to everybody and fool everybody, and then he'll resign because he had a disagreement with Kamala. The United States has never been as screwed up as it is today, not in modern history, not since the Democrats gave us the Civil War, which I like to call the first Civil War. It's the first Civil War. We didn't know to call World War I until World War II came along. We didn't know that we had to number them. And the Democrat Party today, I got to tell you, just amazing stuff. The New York Post has the story, and the Washington Post doesn't cover it. The New York Times doesn't cover it because they're not in the news business. They're not journalists. They are bootlicks for the Democrat Party and the left, and they think everything will be fine, and their hipster friends will think it's cool. And I hope no New York Times reporters are dragged by scooter gangs riding stolen scooters to rob people. You see, in New York, they've got these gangs that have set up, they send out group texts that the gang leader wants this specific type of phone, and then the gangs go out and beat and drag women and men and brutalize people and steal their stuff and then empty their bank accounts after they hack into their phones. And the New York Times is fine with that because it hasn't hit their front door yet, I guess. Pretty amazing stuff. Biden blunders again, says he discussed Capitol riot with ex-German Chancellor Kohl, who died in 2017. Said he's talking to Francois Mitterrand when actually he's talking to Emmanuel Macron. Remember, we were told by a very corrupt news media that he's a foreign policy expert. And it was Robert Gates who said clearly that Joe Biden has been wrong about every major foreign policy decision for 40 years, and that was pretty generous, as a matter of fact. Just extraordinary. It's about time for him to fake that illness and go away. And then the Democrats have Kamala Harris in the White House when Joe Biden is forced to stand down. It's time for him to go. He's got to go. And I said this, I've said it more than a couple of times, but the other day I said, it's his brain, and he had this press conference where he couldn't remember Hamas, and the reporter had to tell him, and if you watch the video, it's even more disturbing than the audio, because he's clearly, he's slack-jawed, his eyes are glazed over, his eyelids are kind of droopy and sagging, he's slack-jawed, and his brain is broken. And fake Dr. Jill Biden, who's not a doctor at all, should have prevented him from running for president in the first place. But this just shows, they got Fetterman elected over Dr. Mehmet Oz, an internationally renowned surgeon, a professor of surgery, who is a skilled television presenter and looks like he hosts a TV show. And they were able to put this bag of hammers from the Adams family in the United States Senate because the news media is so corrupt that, if Charles Manson were still alive, they could get him elected to the Senate, the news media, over Ronald Reagan. That's how corrupt our news media is. Just extraordinary. And they got Joe Biden elected president, knowing that he's a complete disaster, that he's a mental train wreck, that his brain doesn't work at all, and he won the presidency of the United States. Isn't that extraordinary? All right, let's take one more phone call. Let's go to Dan, calling from Calvert County, Maryland. Daniel, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Oh, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I can.
Oh, good. It's on my ear. I'm so glad I got through. I watch your show. We need you desperately. My call is that AOC was really hitting hard about the fact that we need these immigrants to work and we're short. With the same breath, she's saying we've got to have abortions for all these black children that are being born. And why do we need immigrants from above when we're killing black children here in our own country? I don't understand that.
Well, that's because you're a rational person. See, that's the problem. There's a disconnect there. AOC is a mental dwarf. Can you say mental dwarf? Is that okay? Because midget is right out, unless you're talking about the automobile, the MG midget. But she's more. They love abortion. They love, the old Al Qaeda saying, Dan, was we love death more than you love life. And the Democrat Party is pretty much there. That should be their bumper sticker, too. We love death more than you love life. And AOC is a bag of hammers, too. And and all the Democrats say, well, we need these, they just say immigrants, not illegal immigrants, to wash our dishes and cut our lawns. And they say it, I've played it over and over again, where Democrats are saying, well, where do we get people who are clean? Who do you think's cleaning the dishes back in the kitchens of restaurants, Michelin star restaurants that they go to? They need illegal aliens for cheap labor. It's today's slavery. The Democrat Party is the party of slavery and the bullwhip and the Confederate States of America. And today, the updated version of that is illegal aliens who come in and work in the shadows and get paid less. And it probably cost the Democrats less than slaves did at the time.
Yeah. Well, let me say just one thing.
Yes, sir.
We're getting immigrants that are capable of washing our dishes, but they're also capable of burning down our buildings. And we have no control over which is which.
You're absolutely right. You're 100% right, of course. And the Democrats presumably know this. And again, Democrat Senator today, Chris Murphy, saying that the Democrat Party has failed to deliver for the people that they care about the most. And that's illegal aliens. He wasn't supposed to say it out loud. And the fake journalist who was performing acts of journalistic gratification upon him should have called him on it. So excuse me, do you know what you just said? But they all just agree. They are not on our side. They are not here to make the United States better. They are here to destroy the United States. And behind the curtain is Barack Obama, who is the real power behind here. And look out, when they go to swap out the current idiots with Michelle Obama so that Barack and his communist mentor, Frank Marshall Davis, get another term in the White House. It's low IQ theater. This is what years of really bad public education will do to a constitutional republic. Daniel, thank you.
If you've never met a Planned Parenthood baby, I'm happy to let you know that I am one.
There's a funny video making the rounds. The Blaze has the video of an all-woman SWAT team, police SWAT team, and they're trying to do the obstacle course, and it's like a satire of like girls can't do stuff. It's pretty amazing. They're all dressed up like they're a tactical team, a SWAT team, and they can't rappel and do the basic things. It's kind of funny. As long as you're not in a hostage situation and they send these people in, it's different. All right, let's grab a quick phone call. Let's go to Mike calling from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Mike, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. Let me say this. You and I are brothers in that we are both recovering broadcast journalists. And there's very little info is out there. And when you do get its bits and pieces, ABC Radio today, the little anchorette came on and said, well, we have a lot of Chinese hackers are coming in, and according to the FBI, and they're hacking into our infrastructure and water and electricity. And she's just kind of like, it amazed me that, they're starting to let it out. It's almost like a warning of what's coming. But she just kind of had this nonchalant attitude in her voice, and it upsets me as an American and just as a human being that what happened to journalism? It's dead and gone, and I hate to say that. I hate to believe that. Yeah. But God bless you for keep getting it out, son. We do appreciate it, and maybe, just pray hard, and try to inform people. That's it.
That's about where we are. Pray and try to inform. And you're right, the media is the most corrupt institution in America.